You're listening to Permission To, the podcast where we dive into the science and soul of owning your worthiness as a perfectly imperfect human being. I'm your host, Sam Dew, psychotherapist, positive psychology coach, mama to a beautiful 5-year-old Amelie, and passionate advocate for living an inspired life. My aim is to show you that you have full permission to own your worthiness so that you can embrace your true nature and begin walking boldly toward your dreams. Let's dive in. Hi beauties, it's time for another episode of Permission To, and today we are chatting all things permission to breathe with the beautiful Holly. Now, Holly is a dear friend of mine and a client who has worked with me in Worthy to Expand and now in Permission Granted. And Holly is a qualified social worker like me. She's got over 10 years experience helping people overcome life challenges and live life to their fullest potential. She's now embarked on her career as a life coach and trauma-informed breathwork facilitator to further her passion for helping individuals dismantle the structures of who they think they are and get to know a deeper sense of self-love and realize their infinite potential. When she's not working on her mission, she is practicing what she preaches, taking lots of time to breathe and embody her highest vision, as well as spending time with her loved ones and her 3 dogs, Hugo, Mishi, and Yumi. And before we dive in, I just wanted to give a shout out to Worthy to Expand. Doors are closing really soon. If you want to grab the early bird price and jump into 6 weeks of power coaching with me, this is the last chance to work with me until next year. I would absolutely love to see you in there. Let's dive in and hear what Holly has to say. Take us back to Holly a year ago. Can you share a bit more about where you were at and where your business was at and what led you to sign up to Worthy to Expand with the VIP one-on-one upgrade?
Yes, let's go back. Okay, so a year ago, I was working in full-time social work. I just had a string of really stressful positions. Professionally and personally, I was basically just really burnt out. I remember our first coaching call, and I was driving home from work and I couldn't even get home from work, and I had to pull over in the Bunnings car park. And you were like, "Are you in the car?" And yeah, I just remember that moment of okay, I'm gonna just take a leap of faith and lean into this. And I guess that was a really good example as well, Sam, of working with you. You're just so accepting of however we need to show up, or whatever capacity we can show up. You create a really welcoming and understanding space in that. So that first meeting with you, even though I felt like I was a complete mad person, it was really, it was a really reassuring process. And then basically from there, I was just feeling that I was just really lost, directionless, really burnt out professionally. But I also had this really deep, kind of inside rumble that I knew that I wanted to expand into something else into my career. And I could see people doing things differently. Like you, really good example of, I felt that the context that I was working in professionally was no longer aligned, and I was seeing a whole new world opening up. And so at that time, I was feeling really down about being a social worker. I'd been in clinical social work for 10 years, and I really love the principles of social work. I really feel like we've got such a versatile bunch of skills, and it's really important work. But the reason why I got into it and then what I was doing day to day just wasn't aligning up for me anymore. But I've always been really passionate about helping people and working with people to reach their full potential. So basically when I started working with you, I had this really deep kind of like secret, like a yearning to start my own business. And I wanted freedom, basically. I wanted freedom in my work, and freedom in my personal life. And I think I had a lot of guilt around that, wanting that feeling. And I think I had a lot of beliefs around that being really unreasonable. And like it's a really unrealistic kind of dream to have, that you could feel free creatively in your profession as well as in your personal life.
And it's so interesting because I've worked with a lot of social workers, and this is just coming up more and more in our industry, that we get into the work because we want to, serve people, we want to change systems, and then we end up working in these systems that are really unsupportive of our creativity and of the work that we want to do. And they can just be real energy zappers, can't they?
Yeah, 100%. I felt really confined by the structures that I was working in, and really undervalued, or almost like a bit de-skilled. And so I think I came to you at that point where I was like so frustrated, and I was really scared of what that meant, because I was very indoctrinated into that belief of like, you go to uni and you do your degree and you just work and then you accept your lot in life. And if you don't do that, then the other role models I have in my life are people who didn't do that and then always really struggled, like financially. So I was very trapped in that. But then I had these sort of like really big dreams, and I was just in that sort of internal conflict about basically I didn't feel worthy enough of those dreams, I suppose.
Was there a bit of a like who am I to want more, like shouldn't I just be grateful kind of? Were those the kind of messages you were receiving maybe from society a bit? Because
definitely from society, from a lack of confidence in my own voice and in my own dreams, and also from people around me. So I was like, before I signed up for Worthy to Expand, I remember I was in a really, really stressful social work job, and I just had a horrific week. And I was walking down the street of my workplace, and my colleagues had just been talking about whatever had happened that week, and they were saying, oh, you'll get used to it, like it won't always be this traumatic. And I was walking down the street thinking, like, if I'm in this long enough that the trauma is something that I get used to, then there's no going back. And then I had you in the background showing up online, like a history in social work as well. So I really identified with you in that. But you were just creating these sort of communities and this content about, helping people feel worthy about who they are as people, and creating these beautiful spaces for people to come together. And I just knew that I had to be in that space. Otherwise, I was just going to stay stuck where I was.
And I'm so glad you said yes. It was the first time I ran Worthy to Expand. And I'm if you're listening to this episode, I'm currently launching it again and about to run it again soon. But it's been an amazing journey, because Holly's also then gone on to do Permission Granted as well. So we're still working together. And talk me through, before we talk about like, I guess, what's changed in your life, first I'd love to hear about like what's been the biggest mindset and inner world shift that you have experienced since you started working with me in Worthy to Expand.
Yes. Yeah. And just on that point of going from Worthy to Expand to Permission Granted, I think my experience in Worthy to Expand, it really set me up in a way that I now feel like for the foreseeable future, like I won't be without a coach or mentor. It was a really amazing stepping stone into allowing myself that worthiness to feel like I can invest in myself, and I not just financially, but like emotionally, mentally, giving myself that time to do that deeper level of inquiry about my life, and trusting that that is the catalyst for all those external changes that I was really craving in the moment. So yeah, Worthy to Expand was like a really nice little sort of bite-sized option for me, into heading into sort of longer programs like Permission Granted. And as I said, it was a no-brainer to also go into Permission Granted, but also the one-on-one upgrade that we had, because Worthy to Expand opened up so much stuff and I was doing so much work. I'm also a person that really bounces off really well with other people. And so that sort of option was really supportive to me during that time, because a lot of mindset shifts were coming up, and I felt like I could also just have a bit more personalized experience through that as well. And also I was getting really used to how great it felt to invest in myself. So I was like, yeah, absolutely. Let's go next level.
Yeah, that's right. I think you decided to upgrade partway through, didn't you? And I often find it's really, really hard the first time you invest in yourself. I know I've experienced the same. And then once you do it, you're like, oh, I get why this is important. Like, you know, you can read all the books, listen to all the podcasts, but it's actually when you invest the time and the money and the energy into something that you start to like kind of almost really take yourself seriously and prioritize that time. So, and then often once someone's made an investment, it just feels easier the next time and the next time, because you kind of get the why, you get how powerful it is.
Yeah, I could just see a direct correlation between being in your community and doing the work that came along with Worthy to Expand, with like that, the correlation between committing to that and doing that for myself, and then also my life changing. So it was just, once I had that bit of momentum, it was a lot more rewarding, and I guess like easier to go, yes, absolutely, and trusting in that process.
So you learn how to invest in yourself and trust in yourself. What other kind of inner world and mindset shifts did you experience through Worthy to Expand?
I guess the biggest one is exactly that. It's Worthy to Expand. So I really started to feel that I was worthy to experience like growth, and to really allow myself to look at the dreams that I had. And you've just got this really beautiful, like gentle way of helping people to like stretch the edges of how they can open themselves up to that worthiness in their life, which was really supportive to me at the time, because I did have a lot of resistance to it. And it was through your coaching that just bit by bit, it was like I was softening and opening up to that through that experience. And I think it's I think it's sort of one of the biggest mindset things for me, is like it's taught me around to focus more on progress rather than perfection. Because before Worthy to Expand, I think I had such my mind was so stuck on perfectionism that I didn't even start. And then I was so frustrated that I wasn't getting any changes in my life. But the process of working with you has taught me to just be so much more kind and compassionate to myself through that process, and look at that progress of growth, that it's actually accelerated my growth and the changes in my life. So that's been a massive one for me. And it actually, I can still set really high standards for myself, because I do value that. Like I work really well having like big ambitions, but I'm not fixated on those ambitions and the outcome, and that I'm not good enough because I'm not there yet. I am celebrating the process of getting there through Worthy to Expand. So that's been a massive one. Another really cool thing that I got from that program was a relationship with my future self. So you took us through this exercise of like future self, getting to know ourselves in the future. And it's just changed the game for me, because she's still me, but she's like, the future me, and it helps me to visualize and realign to where I'm going. And I draw a lot of strength and wisdom and like inspiration from her. So that was a really big benefit for me as well.
Yeah, I love what you're saying about your future self, but also about how, you realize to focus on progress over perfection, because I seem to attract like really high achieving women, but often who also, have that self-worth piece that they need to work on. And so there's often this frustrated energy, isn't there? Like, because you can't start off with it being perfect. You've got to start off with just making any kind of action. And if you keep waiting to be ready to get it perfect, then you just end up frozen in this cycle of frustration. So that it's such a helpful explanation, I think, for anyone listening to hear how you focused on progress over perfection. Thank you for sharing that. I think it's really wise.
Thank you.
And how did you find the journaling part of Worthy to Expand?
This was a big one for me. So journaling was something that has taught me to be comfortable in hearing my own voice, and to be really kind and compassionate about whatever's coming up in the moment, and not judging it, as well as it's just a really awesome tool to just work through a lot of that, the subconscious beliefs and things that we may not necessarily be aware of. But it also holds like a special place in my heart, because I was very close to my grandmother, and she used to journal a lot. And I always used to admire her writing, and I used to watch her at night, like by the candlelight, just like writing these streams of beautiful writing. And I have a lot of her journals, and it's always something that I really aspired to, but I had so much resistance around what would come up, or that I didn't like myself enough to hear what I was going to say. But Worthy to Expand, the journaling part of it was so beautiful in unpacking a lot of the coaching work that we were doing. And also because the journaling prompts came from you and not from me, it was kind of like this beautiful co-creation process where I felt like it wasn't all just down to me. Like, Sam was asking me these prompts, and this program is like inviting me to look at these things about myself. And I lent into that. And it was really, really healing. And it's now like a tool that I can use a lot. Many times a week I journal, and it's just been a full 360. And I feel, really connected to my grandma when I'm even just writing like stream of consciousness writing. And that worthiness work, again, is a key point in that, is that I felt the relationship with myself changing, that I was kinder to myself, and therefore able to hear what I had to say a lot more.
That's so interesting, isn't it? It's almost like you had to work on your worthiness and like, hey, I matter, my dreams matter, and so I'm going to value myself enough to prioritize this journaling.
Definitely.
Yeah, and what a beautiful connection to your grandma as well.
Yeah.
And so tell us about now, like, so where has all this inner work and this mindset work led to? What are you up to now, and what do you want to kind of share with the Permission to community?
So I guess, there's been so many changes in my life since starting that program. And honestly, again, feeling worthy enough to expand into that progress and investing in myself was the catalyst. So I can't see that any of the changes that I've made could have come from where I was at without stepping into a program like this, and really working on I don't think it's work necessarily, but giving myself that time and space to grow, and how worthy, I feel, is now a complete representation of how expansive my life is becoming. And then so through that process, because I was feeling, so much more inspired and releasing so much of like my old negative beliefs about myself and limiting beliefs, I got really interested in lots of other modalities. And I went along to this breathwork class, and I was thinking, oh, breathwork, what is that all about? Like, we breathe all the time, I can do this. And it was explained to me that it was like meditation for people who can't meditate. And so I thought, awesome.
I love that.
I don't have to sit quietly and not think, because that's really hard. And I was like, I breathe all the time, I'll give this a go. So I was like more worthy to kind of like experiment in things. And I went to this breathwork class, and it was like an hour-long class. It was really intense. It was really hard. Actual conscious breathing for an extended period of time is actually a lot harder than we think. And I also, as much as it was a challenging experience, I also had a really transformational experience through that time. And following that, through that class, I really felt for the first time like a true sense of self-love. And it was a feeling that like I never knew that I didn't love myself. But once I felt that self-love, I was like, whoa, okay, this is who I am. This is what I'm capable of.
So powerful.
And it really solidified, like it really I guess helped integrate a lot of that work that I had done in Worthy to Expand. And it was just this really really amazing experience for me.
It's so interesting. I've done a breathwork workshop with the O2. I feel like they've changed their name since I did it, but it was like almost like a full day experience. And I walked away with this like real sense of aliveness. And like, wow, I'm capable of so much more than I realize. So, similar but different. But I think breathwork can be so powerful, especially like I'm someone who can be quiet in my head, and thought work is really powerful for me. But I do also need to make sure that I think everybody needs a combination of thought work and some kind of body work, right?
Absolutely. And so through that experience and really feeling like the combination of all the mindset work that I'd done in Worthy to Expand, and then opening myself up to other things in my life like breath work, I just sort of something clicked in me, and I was like, okay, this is the direction now. And I really felt like a strong sense of purpose. So through that, I decided to start my own business, and using my social work skills in coaching, but also combining it with transformational breathwork, trauma-informed breathwork facilitation. So that's the direction that my life is going in now. It's still an evolving process, and I'm still expanding into that every single day, which is why Permission Granted has also been really supportive through that time. But what you said before about having, like the mindset sort of cognitive based work, and then the body based, more somatic work, for me really just, it really just brought everything together.
Yeah, that's so powerful. So now you're offering coaching and breathwork combined.
That's right. Yeah. So my vision is, so since I've discovered breathwork and the amazing experience of that, I was just like, it was this clear message of this is where we're going, and this is what we're going to bring to other people. And I feel really strongly that the mindset work, talk therapy, those modalities are so powerful, But if we're also not addressing our nervous systems and what's happening on a physiological body level, where a lot of our trauma and emotions are stored, then we're sort of just blocking ourselves from really reaping the full benefits of the mindset work, in my experience, because I spent a lot of time trying to change my mindset, but also then feeling like I still didn't feel okay.
Yes, yeah. And it's interesting, like even when I was working more as a therapist and with like clients with trauma, often I would find that there were just limits to talking therapy. And I would often be recommending that they tried things like kinesiology or breath work or trauma-informed yoga. Like there's so many, like, yeah, we sometimes need to move the trauma or to move things out of our bodies, right? And talking will only get us so far. So yeah, I think it's a beautiful blend, like coaching and breathwork together. Yeah, sounds really, really powerful. So tell me a little bit more about breathwork and how it actually works for those who don't maybe understand how breathwork works, and what they would do in a breathwork session. I think that would be really helpful to hear.
Yeah, absolutely. So breathwork is conscious, like very intentional conscious breathing, active breathing over an extended period of time. So basically what it does is it changes the pH levels in our blood, and then it shuts down a lot of, in a safe way, a lot of our critical thinking, and can send us into like deeper states of either relaxation or like meditation. It's very safe because unlike other modalities, we're breathing, so we are fully in control. So we're not taking anything, we're not consuming anything, we're not relying on anyone else. It's actually our own experience with our breath. And it shuts down the sympathetic nervous system and allows the parasympathetic nervous system to come on board. So people who either live really stressful lives or have experienced a lot of trauma are often in a overactive sympathetic state. And so we're in fight or flight. We're in got to take action. We've got to be hypervigilant. And we find it really hard to relax. And so what the breath does is that it tells the body that it's actually safe to enter into the parasympathetic state, which is the rest and digest. And that's where we can really release a lot of the stored emotions in our body, stored traumas. And so we're working through past experiences or present problems without actually consciously doing that. It's like the body just releases it for us. And so for some people, a breathwork experience can be really transformational. We can enter altered states of consciousness. But again, it's in a very safe way that we're in control, and at any time we can come back to our natural breath. So it's really empowering. And it's just about freeing up our mind from the control of all the emotions in our body, so that when we go to do that mindset work, we're a lot more open to looking at new perspectives. So it's also supporting that neuroplasticity process in creating changes in our life.
And do you find that breath work can help you heal a certain negative experience or trauma or something that's blocked? Because I know with my breathwork experience, I had quite a traumatic birth with my first daughter, which I shared on one of my podcasts. But I kind of went in with the intention to like heal that trauma, because I felt like I'd talked about it so much, but I'd still get very upset whenever I talked about her birth. And what was interesting is that it did seem to, I don't remember like processing any of it when I was doing the breath work, but then I have felt so much better about her birth since that breath work, and I had a lot of like almost like hallucinations and visualizations and things like that were very, very powerful. Like I would say for me, it's like, yeah, a very powerful, life-changing experience. Would you say that that's what a lot of your clients experience when they come to you for breath work?
Yeah, there's so much in that. I think there's two sides to it. So the breath is our life force, and breath work can be used in a really integrated daily way in any moment. So I teach shorter breathwork sessions where you're not necessarily going to enter into that sort of altered state of consciousness, but it's really retraining our nervous system on a daily level, and at any time that we're feeling activated or we're feeling like we need to come into realignment, there's lots of breath patterns that we can even just take, a few minutes to get back into that energetic alignment. But the longer breathwork sessions, absolutely, like you described, they can be really really on a physiological level, so beneficial for our bodies, but also on a more emotional, psychological and spiritual level, that our bodies, what we're learning about the body and mind relationship is that the body also holds so much of our experiences and also so much wisdom. And the body actually is responsible for 80% of the communication to the mind, and the mind is responsible for 20% communication to the body. So we have this kind of relationship where if we're only working on our mindset, but we're not addressing on a body-based level how we're feeling, what we're storing in our emotions and our past experiences, we can only think our way out of things to a certain level. And it also helps to build the resilience of our vagus nerve, which is one of the longest running nerves in our body that is communicating to lots of our organs, but also regulates our tolerance. So in other areas of our lives, when we're faced with stressful situations, if we're practicing that, strengthening our window of tolerance to handle those things, I find that over a period of time, breath work also helps us to regulate ourselves in other situations. So it helps us to change how we show up in our relationships, in our work, how we feel about ourselves. So many different levels.
I think it's so important. Not to just focus on the mind, and we all have our preferences. I definitely am more mind orientated. I'm very aware of my thoughts, I'm very aware of my feelings, but my body I sometimes forget about. And I know when I did my Gestalt training like years ago, they talked about like the zones of awareness, and that we all have preferences, but a lot of us tend to be more thought, mind focused. So I love that you're kind of bringing, I guess you're teaching your clients how to reconnect with their breath and to use that as a tool, which is so beautiful to blend that with coaching and mindset work, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Like we need both. And mindset, I'm the same. Sometimes I probably over identify with my mind, and so breath work has helped me to realize that sometimes the mind is very limited, and especially when we've been through really hard periods of our life, we have a warped perspective. So like having a coach or a program where you're working on your mindset really helps to expand your awareness, expand your worthiness, like was my experience, and to really view myself differently. But the body-based work was also like the missing key in that, because it made me feel better. So I felt like I couldn't think my way into feeling better. I was still waking up every morning, with crippling anxiety, and then it would take a lot mentally to talk myself out of that. So whilst I have that new perspective, and I needed that new perspective through the mindset work, the breath work was something that really helped me to regulate my emotions, regulate my stress response, and to be able to allow space for that mindset stuff to really do what it needs to do. Yeah.
And I was thinking, like, that nervous system support is so key, isn't it? When you're trying to work on your worthiness, when you're trying to work on expanding, maybe it's launching a new business, starting a podcast, whatever it is that you're working on. If you can't like soothe your nervous system and support your nervous system, then you can do all the mindset work, but it's not going to get through, right? So body does need to really be prioritized.
Absolutely. So I'm really inspired to combine the two approaches, and I feel like there are lots of other modalities to do that. I know in my work with you, Sam, in some of the containers, like we have dance parties, and like there's lots of work. It doesn't necessarily have to be breath work. Dancing's a great one. Lots of people do like raging out to like a song, when they've got all the pent up energy, and they're just like, put some really ragey song on and just like rage around the room. Exercise is a beautiful one, yoga, all those types of things.
Tapping. Did you do any of the tapping that
yes,
Worthy to Expand? One of our beautiful community members, Fionnuala, recorded a tapping around worthiness as well.
Exactly. Another really great example of that. So breath work is only one modality, but it's definitely one that I found that at any point in time of our day, we have this life force that we can lean on, as well as I find it's the quickest way to cut through the structures and sometimes some of the really limited perspectives that we have in our minds. The breath is just, it knows where to go. It cuts through that BS that our mind is sometimes telling us. And it just creates that space and freedom, as well as sometimes healing a lot of subconscious stuff that we may not necessarily have the capacity to access through talking or thinking.
And I was just thinking, breath work is the ultimate self-trust in some ways, isn't it? Because you don't necessarily need to control the breath, and no matter what we do, we don't have to think to keep breathing. Our body just always breathes. And so there's something for me that comes up there around like it's the ultimate proof that we can trust our bodies.
100%. And when we start to do breath work, we realize that most of us are walking around 95% of the day not breathing properly. Because the breath is a reflection of where we are. So when someone's having an anxiety or panic attack, their breath is going to be really shallow. And one of the first things that we do is not try to talk someone out of an anxiety attack. It's to co-regulate that breath, right? So it's a constant clue of where we are and where we are in our bodies. And so if we're full of anxiousness or the breath shows us that, we can then use that as a tool to then really help support our mind, because we do need our mind. We're meaning making creatures, all of that is so beautiful. I'm very philosophical. I love a deep inquiry. I love a D&M. But the breath allows me to show up in my highest for that work in a way that I have never experienced before.
Powerful. So for people listening who haven't maybe done much breath work before, where does one start when it comes to using breath work as a tool? And have you got any like tips and tools that we could use?
Yes, absolutely. So breath work as a modality is a little bit different to, like, say, mindful breathing. So I would say if people are wanting to explore sort of that deeper side of breath work, really trying to look at finding a facilitator to help you through that, because there's lots of different ways that breath is activated in different patterns. And it is a bit of a journey. And so to have someone to support you through that on a deeper level is really my recommendation. There are so many, it's becoming really popular now. So there's so many different people showing up that even are doing online classes as well as apps. Like you spoke about, Sam, you did the CO2 experience. So there's lots of different teachers coming out. So that's definitely my recommendation if people want to explore it deeper. But just on a daily basis, I think breath awareness and using our breath is something that we can even just start to notice and have an awareness of. And a really great technique that I like to start my day off, if I don't have time to do like a massive breathwork session, is when I first wake up in the morning, is taking, 10 minutes to take some really conscious, active, deep breaths in through the nose and filling up my entire lungs and my belly, and then really exhaling anything that I might have woken up with, anything that is making me feel anxious or any resistance that I'm feeling, and breathing in my intention for the day, and doing 3 rounds of 10 of those breaths to like a beautiful song that you really like, and just allowing the breath to really waken up and circulate that energy is going to really set you up. And you'll notice a subtle energetic shift in how you're starting your day. So I think that's a really great, simple tool that we can often overlook, that, what's a few deep breaths going to do? But I promise you, 3 rounds of 10 beautifully nourishing breaths is going to have a profound effect.
Yeah, that sounds so beautiful. And imagine for anyone who is in a bit of the habit of checking their phone as soon as they wake up, which I am guilty as charged of doing at the moment, especially with a baby and getting woken up all kinds of times of the night. But imagine if you woke up and you did that before you checked your phone. Like sometimes a very small habit like that can be a life changer, right?
We're so disconnected from ourselves, like we're so disconnected, and it is really tempting to distract ourselves with other things, and we're very busy and we don't have a lot of time. And I think those are all excuses that can sort of get in the way of really simple things that over even a few days is going to just have such a profound impact. Because the difference between me opening up my phone and getting stuck into other people's lives or just jumping out of bed and getting stressed about work for the day, to taking literally 10 minutes to just really nourish myself and check in about energetically where I am that day. It's not something that it's something that we can easily look over, but it's really, really so powerful.
Really, really powerful. Breathwork is such a untapped resource and possibility for so many women listening. Just such a valuable topic. So how can people find out more about your work, and what opportunities are coming up for people to work with you?
Thank you so much for letting me rave on about my passions. It's just such a beautiful conversation to have. At the moment, I'm offering breathwork sessions online. So I offer integrative sessions that are 30 minutes long that really help to help people explore what their breath is and what breathwork feels like to them, and also gives you a really great technique of using it in your everyday life. But I also offer 60-minute more meditative journeys through breathwork. So they're all online. I do have a few limited spots for my one-on-one coaching as well, which utilises my social work background and experience and transformational breathwork that really aims at building relationship with yourself, your self-trust, your self-love. And yeah, so there are a few spots of that opening up in the next coming months as well.
So exciting for anyone who has a chance to, and make sure you connect with Holly on Instagram and follow along on her journey. But yeah, it's just been like such a moment of celebration to witness you, stepping into this expansion and launching your business and everything. So
yeah, thank you, Sam. You've been a really important part of my journey. So really appreciate it.
Oh, absolutely. Just such a pleasure. The fact that I get to do this work with magical humans like you is just, it's just a dream come true. And so for anyone who's listening, who's thinking, oh, is it really worth it? Like putting yourself out there, being vulnerable, taking risks, admitting that you want more. Then I think like Holly and I would both say that it is worth it, wouldn't we?
Go for it. Yeah. Definitely. Yes. It's worth it. You're worth it. Yeah. Lean into your expansion. There's no way that you will not be better off.
Yeah, exactly. No matter what it is that you end up doing with it.
Definitely.
Yeah, well, thank you, beauties. Thanks for listening. And if anyone is interested in Worthy to Expand, doors are currently open. So I will share some information in the links below as well. Until then, we'll see you next week.